Hello everybody, my name is Marlo and today I'm going to show you step by step how I build medieval houses in Minecraft. Like some of the ones you're currently seeing on the screen. These are actually from my Techtopia series in case you're interested. Anyway, I've never done anything like this before and I'm by no means an expert, but let's get to it. So the first thing we're going to do is actually going to take us out of Minecraft and to your search engine. Now those creatively minded of you may not even need this first step, but I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who perhaps struggle to come up with a beginning idea and to get started, and me included. I usually struggle with that, so what we're going to do is just search around on Google for some inspiration. Now if we just type in medieval house to begin with, we can get an idea of what the general style is and what medieval houses would look like. You can see tall roofs, chimneys, lots of stone and wood, and this is just to give us a general idea of what we're looking for. You can see a couple Minecraft houses dotted in from time to time, and if these renderings and photographs aren't perhaps enough, we can just slap Minecraft on the end of it. And this will give us many more options and perhaps inspire us a little more. Now, there is a big difference between inspiration and imitation. We are not just looking for a build to straight up copy. We are looking for a build to take apart certain elements and use in our own, whether that's the style of it, the shape, block palette, or just certain parts that we quite like. So let's take, I don't know, this one for example. I quite like the big tall roof with this stone outer lining here, and let's see what else we got here. I quite like a chimney, that would be a cool idea. And what else have we got? This lantern would be quite nice to add in, something like that. So you can see we're just sort of browsing photos and sort of getting inspired of what we could do for ourselves. So yeah, have a look around on Google Images for a little while, see what you can find, and then we can hop back into Minecraft. Something very important we have to do before we even start the build is to figure out what block palette we want to use. Now there are many different blocks that you can use for a medieval style build. Pretty much any type of wood, I'd say more so spruce, oak and dark oak. Jungle and acacia might not work as much. Almost any type of stone, a lot of the terracottas might even work, some of the duller colours. So just have a look around the creative menu, see what you can find, perhaps even go back to Google and get a little bit more inspired. But me personally, I'm going to be using from right to left dark oak logs, dark oak planks, spruce planks, a little bit of stone brick and a very small amount of white terracotta. Now we're going to figure out the shape of the build, and what I like to do is place in all of the corner blocks, and how you place these will depend on many things. What you want your build to look like, how intricate you want to go with it, and obviously the shape you would like. Me personally, I'm going to go with something quite simple in this video and just have a general rectangle shape. So it's quite helpful to work with odd numbers. I'd recommend that at least on the front of the house. It helps a lot with the roof design. So we're going to leave a gap of 5 blocks here, place our other block there. We'll swing around to the side and leave a gap of, let's say 7 this time, so it's not a perfect square. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Place our other block there, another gap of 5, and then 7 again. So you can see this just outlines our build for us and something to get started on. Alright, now we can get started on the roof. So what we've got to do now is bring up some of these pillars a little bit, the corners that you've just placed down. I would say if you're doing the logs like I'm doing here on the corner, which I'm sure quite a lot of you would do, it's a fairly popular choice to have logs on the corner. I'd say bring it up maybe 4 to 5 blocks depending on how tall you want the bottom level of your building to be. Obviously do as many as you like, you don't have to listen to me, but I'd say 4 to 5 is a fairly good number. My roof is going to have an outer lining block. For this I'm going to be using stone bricks as I said about earlier. So the first thing we want to do is take the corners of the pillars and place an upside down stair like so. This is the front of the house and a good place to start. So on the back of those we can place another slab, and then remember medieval buildings have fairly tall roofs, so I'm using full stone brick blocks which we can place on top of those upside down stairs, and basically this just adds a little bit of height to the roof instead of just using stairs alone. These can be however tall you'd like them. Perhaps we can have a couple more here just to add the extra little bit of height. However, I'm not sure that I actually like that. I think we will just go up by 1 block each time until we reach the point where they connect, which should be any second now. There we go. Now what we can actually do just to add an extra little bit of detail and another stair, which is always good, is have an upside down one there and come back up to the top, sorry, and just add a little point to the to the top of the house. So if we just maybe add a couple stairs in just like that, just adds that extra little something. So I've gone ahead and done the same on the other side and connected them up. So what I've done on this level here is an upside down stair on either side of the top log block and then connected them up with slabs. This just gives us an extra half a block to play with on the wall when we do eventually get to it. Now as for the top, you can see I've added in some stairs just to add that extra little bit to the top of the roof. Now there are many different things you can do on top of the roof with this connecting line. You just have to sort of play around with some slabs and stairs and possibly some other blocks and see what you can come up with. Perhaps something like this, just taking out the middle stair and replacing it with a slab, making it not quite as pointy as it was before. Or perhaps you really like the pointiness and would like to emphasize that a little bit. You can do this by adding in some walls or perhaps some fences depending on what block you're using. Or maybe just something very simple with some slabs here connecting them up. Doesn't always have to be super detailed looking. Me personally, I'm going to use these stairs because I quite like how they look. So what we've got to do now is basically fill in the rest of the roof. Now you can use whatever block you'd like. Me personally, I'm going to use some spruce planks because, well, we have a stone brick outer lining here. And if we added in any more stone, it might look a little strange. So we can just come all the way along here and basically match up whatever block is on the outer line. So full block, stair, so on and so forth. Now depending on what shape your building is will obviously affect how the roof looks. Now I'm sure there's going to be a lot of different shapes out there you guys are doing, so I've built up a bunch of different roof designs to perhaps give you some ideas and maybe inspire you a little. Let's talk about the wall. Now, for mine, I'm going to be using dark oak, just something that's a little different from the roof design or the outer lining here, just so it isn't all the same block and isn't too overbearing, so still wood but a different colour. Now, there is one very small thing that you can do to a wall in a build that will entirely change how it looks. So you may start with something a little like this, which is okay looking, but it could look so much better if we just push it back by one block and add a little bit of depth to the build. This looks a little better already, I would say, so now what we can do is add in a couple extra things to improve how this looks. The first one being underneath these glass panes here, which, by the way, I'd always recommend using glass panes over full glass blocks. Not only is it cheaper, but they also just look 10 times better because, guess what? They add depth to the build. So what we can do underneath them is add in some stairs, making it just line up with the glass pane a little better, sorry, and do that on the other side here. Now, we could always add a window in this big open spot here, but too many windows in a build can look kind of off, so we don't really want to do that. Now, what I'm going to actually do is add in another pillar block. These are always something that's very helpful and can just sort of get rid of that big open area here where you don't really know what else to do. And something else that I also really like doing, and I do it quite a lot and we're actually able to because of this half slabbed outer lining here, is add in some logs at the top and just get them peeking through just a little bit. I've now done the same on the other side as well as started the front of the build here, which this looks very plain and boring at the moment, and we will get to improving this in just a little bit, but for now this is okay. We need to figure out what we want to do on the top half here, which is separated by this log. So what I like to do, which is quite often a theme in medieval buildings, you will see they have lines of going from wood to white, which is why we're going to use this white terracotta here. So if we just pillar up here with some wood, do it on either side, and then we put in some white there, white here, and white there. Oh, missed a block. Hang on, let's add those two in, and that one as well. You can see that's got a very medieval feel to it, at least I would say so. And if that isn't, you know, enough for you, you want to add a little bit extra, we can always hop up here and just bust out a hole and add in a window. Now that may not be something you like because it makes the white look here a little weird possibly, but I think I quite like that. So now we can do the same round the back, and over here I've got a little bit of a bigger window just to add something that's a little bit different to what we've got on the two sides. So what we have to do now is basically copy what we've done on the front, like so. Okay, now we can go about making these walls look a little bit better. If we just look at what we've got here, we can potentially pick out the parts that need improving. That was a lot of P's, but I would say at the top here is something that possibly needs some blocks. So what I usually like to do is in some way or another put some sort of stair or half slab down. So for this one, I think we can just do something like this. Very basic, but it just makes this bit at the top look a little less just strange and open and looking like it's missing something. So we can do that there. And then what else we can do is add in some shutters. So simply just grab some trapdoors. I like to use spruce because I think they're the best looking trapdoor in the game. One of my favorite blocks, but you can use whatever you'd like. And yeah, I'd say that has improved it a lot. However, it doesn't just revolve around slabs and stairs. However useful they are, there are other things that you can do, such as here I think would make for a nice little flower bed. So we can put some trapdoors here to close it in and block off the dirt. And then I think we're going to cover this area up here because I don't really want any of it showing. So we're going to do that instead of, say, something like this, where some dirt would poke through. So place it like that sideways, covering up the whole block. We can get some fence posts in, another very useful block. And really when it comes to stairs, you sort of just have to move them around and experiment with different ways of positioning them and see what fits, because there are just so many different things you can do with stairs. They are an incredibly useful block. Heading round to the front of the house, you can see I've done a little bit of work by the doorway, but in my opinion, there is something missing from this area here. There's too much of a flat surface. Now, unfortunately, we can't make windows here because if we just grab some panes, you can see that's a no-go. We don't want that, so let's get rid of those. And instead, we can actually do a little bit of stair trickery and make some tinier windows. Now, admittedly, you can't fit glass panes in here because that's not a full block, but I think that's still better than just having the plain surface. So the house is looking pretty good right now, but I think there's just a few more things we could add to it. The possibilities when it comes to detailing really are endless, so I'm only going to be able to share with you a few of my tips because, well, I'd be here all day if I went through everything you could possibly add to detail a build, but I'll give you some of my favorites. So I think the very first thing we're going to do, possibly not really a detail, but something that could help the build if you're doing one similar to mine, just adding this layer of slabs across, connecting from either side of the roof, kind of separates the build from the top and the bottom. Some of you may prefer it with, some of you may prefer it without. Me personally, I quite like that. Now up here, the pinnacle to our roof, shall we call it, I think looks slightly strange and we could potentially improve upon it. So I think we're going to come up here with some stone walls and hang down a lantern like we saw from that Google image picture when we were looking for inspiration. Taking a little bit of it there. Doesn't look exactly the same as on the picture, but yeah, nice little lantern hanging down. And of course, repeating it on the other side, I would say this looks a lot better than how it did before, but I think what we need to now focus on is this part of the roof, the spruce section. I think this is just a little too plain and we could possibly add some stuff to this. So on this side of the roof, we've added a little bit of a gable. I'm not entirely sure if that's the correct term, but I think so. Basically just a window within the roof. Now, I could have added two slightly smaller ones, but we've got quite a big feature here, and I think it looks quite nice as it is. Basically, it's just some logs sticking up with a miniature roof of sorts going over top, and then pretty much detailing this similar to what we've done down here with some stairs and fences and little plant pots here and whatnot. But I think actually while I'm looking at this, there's a little extra thing we could add, possibly another lantern there. And yeah, I would say that looks good. Just sort of gets rid of this big whole area that is nothing but spruce. And you can see on the other side, I have done a little something that you can see and hear. I've got this big old chimney, and it potentially looks a little bit big for the size of the building, but I think it's okay. I've added in some of these stairs around the place. It kind of makes it look a little bit smaller and a bit more run down and broken apart. Capped it off here with some spruce trapdoors, and obviously this is a bunch of campfires to give off the smoke particles. Now I've got two trapdoors down the bottom here because In my opinion, this is a little bit of a block clash and kind of looks a bit abrupt on the eyes. It doesn't really have a smooth transition into anything, so I went ahead and covered up with trapdoors and it solved all of my problems. Now, if this wasn't already enough detail for you and you feel like the roof is still missing out on something, I've got a little something you can do, which is to add in some slabs and stairs to make the whole roof look a little more rustic and worn down. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of you who don't particularly like how this looks, and I gotta be honest, I'm not sure I do either, but I think we're gonna keep it for the meantime. I feel like it suits the build fairly well, and yeah, it doesn't stick out as just something that shouldn't belong here. I've also done the same on the other side, and as you can tell, I've added in another little window here purely because I felt like that area was missing something. One thing you will have to do when adding in these slabs and stairs is just make sure you place a block where you can see through into the house. We don't want it to look like a hole in the roof, we just want it to look like a crack or part of it is just worn down. Now, obviously that will make the inside of the house look a little ugly and blocky and all over the place, but don't worry, that can be easily remedied later. The final thing we're going to do for the exterior part of the build is to add in a little bit of foliage. So we're just going to throw in a couple of bushes here, dotted around the house on the floor level here. It doesn't have to be too exact, just kind of place leaves down until you get something you're happy with. Now, obviously what leaves you will do and whether you do this or not will depend on what blocks you used, but I feel like the spruce leaves go quite well with the blocks I'm using, and of course, foliage does include filling our plant pots, which I forgot to do earlier. And there we go. As far as the outside of the build is concerned, we are done. So hopefully you have something you're happy with and are now ready to head inside the build and sort out this mess we have created. Pretty much all we're going to be doing up here is smoothing everything out. Now, I know there are blocks just about everywhere up here, but it's actually going to be fairly simple to do. So all we really want to do is just bring it up like how the roof looks. So coming to a point, starting it 3 wide, going into 1 wide, and then connecting at the top. So you can see we've basically smoothed this bottom bit out down here, and then we can add another layer here. We would kind of like our window on show, so maybe we'll leave that for now. And then same again over here, we'll possibly leave that like that. And then up the top here, we can just have a layer of blocks coming across, and spooky noises. That is already looking a little better. We can also add in some upside down stairs to smooth it out even further. I will probably refine this a little more because it doesn't exactly look great though. There we go, that looks a little bit better than it did before, I would say. Still not perfect, but then again, you're not going to have a perfect ceiling unless you have a perfect roof with nice symmetrical windows. We just about got this one in, couldn't have it exactly entirely on show. What we could actually do maybe is add a stair like that. Yeah, it was in a very awkward position, but you can see I've added in some logs here with a trapdoor on top to stop that awkward block clash, and yeah, I would say we're ready to place a few items in. We don't particularly have loads of room though. Yes, it's a little cramped in here, but I prefer the term cozy. We have our bed with a chest nearby, as well as this little drawer unit, which is basically just a full block with an item frame with a slab inside and a sign over the top, a little table and chairs with a lantern in the corner, and how could we not have this big fireplace when we've got that ginormous chimney poking out the top of the roof? So this takes up quite a lot of room, but I just had to have it. If you're going to do this though, be sure to have fire tick set to off, or false I should say, otherwise, well, this entire build is going to go up in flames and we certainly don't want that. Anyway guys, that's going to be it for this video. I really hope it has helped you out, even if it's by just a little bit. Maybe you've learned something or picked up a trick or two. I've never really done a video like this before, as I said, so hopefully it was okay. I have had a lot of fun putting it together, so I would actually like to get your guys' opinion on whether you'd perhaps like to see more videos like this on the channel. My schedule is already very, very packed and busy as it is at the moment, so they will probably be fairly few and far between, but when I get the time to work on a video like this, would you guys be interested? I'm going to put a poll on the screen. Hopefully I'll remember. Be honest, because I'd like to know whether it be worth the time. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video guys. Again, hope it has helped you out and you've learned something and that your build is looking awesome, as I'm sure it is. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.